Shalom. So, after talking to some people and listening to Michael Sartori's response, I get the feeling a lot of people don't see what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I mean, in our little corner of the internet, obviously, I'm gaining a lot of subscribers, but that's not what this channel was made for. And it's not like, I think this channel's ever going to be viable as like some sort of huge channel or something like that. And the question becomes like, what is your beef with Zion? And not just Zion, but they would like to be called Black Hebrew Israelites, but frankly, I don't think it's fair to saddle the Black community with these clowns. So I call them clown Hebrew Israelites. And the only reason I'm willing to call them Hebrew Israelites is because that combination is nonsensical. I mean, where do I start? So I mean, this is from the 12th. That was, I thought it was Friday. It was actually Thursday. Somebody commented about the fact I kept on saying it was Friday, but I guess it was Thursday. Um, and the, I mean, so he names it Khazar Gematria, the connection between Gog and Magog and the Khazar Jews. And before I play all his shit talking, I want to play um, where he makes it clear that because I'm watching, he's actually being careful about what he's saying, uh, and he had to retract. Like, this is, well, we'll see how many minutes in this is. It's like 30 minutes in, um, to like a 40 some minute thing where he has to admit that he was wrong in a way that should have been obvious to him from the very beginning, but he does this whole long shit talking thing about his gematrias, and then this. So it's actually incorrect because people are watching. Who's watching? Who's watching now? Who wasn't watching before? So with that in mind, we can watch the earlier parts. Um, I did invite some people to possibly come on, um, because honestly, I think I'm not clearly conveying what's going on here, which is a problem. And when I was responding to Lyin Zion Lexx's video yesterday, one of the things he said, which is clearly wrong, is um, that you should do it alone. And this is the biggest mistake you could possibly make. And it's a mistake I don't want to repeat myself. But before we watch that stuff, I want to show you guys 3 verses that I quote a lot. And so this is, I mean, you can look at Isaiah 56, and it it's nothing like how Christians present Judaism and how Hebrew Israelites present Judaism. And the racism, see, Judaism's never been racist. I don't know why I have to, well, I do know why I have to explain this. Because Paul came along and presented Judaism as some sort of racist thing where Jews believe that just because you were born of a Jewish mother, you're a good person, and just because you weren't born of a Jewish mother, you're a bad person. And I mean, there's so much wrong here in their theology that it's honestly it's difficult to know which part to refute. Um, Patrilineal descent, clearly wrong. The racism, clearly wrong. But ki beiti beit tefillah yikareh l'chol ha'amim, because my house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations, l'chol ha'amim, for all nations. So this idea that Jews believe that Gentiles are just, going to hell. No, we don't. That's why we're not evangelical, because we believe that God provides for all his children. Zechariah 8:23. Ko Amar Hashem. So said Hashem, however you want to say it. Tzvakot, the Lord of hosts, is how it usually gets translated. Bayamim hahema, in those days, this is talking about the future. Bayamim hahema, asher yachziku asara anashim, when 10 men, 10 anashim, shall grab hold of, yachziku, mikol lashonot, from all the languages, hagoyim, the nations, vehechziku bechanaf ish Yehudi, and they shall grab the sleeves of a Jewish man, ish Yehudi. Did you hear that, Hebrew Israelites? Ish Yehudi. Le'emor, saying, Nelcha imachem, we will go with you. Ki shamanu Elokim imachem, because we heard that God is with you. So, and the Christian interpretation of this, that a Jew is Jesus, is completely not possible in the Hebrew, because it's Nelcha imachem, we will go with all y'all, second masculine plural. Ki shamanu Elokim imachem is with you, second masculine plural. Honestly, I don't know how to how much I need to refute this, because it's so obvious. And of course, the verse that is basically my motto, Ki az epoch el amim safa berra likro chulam b'shem havaya le'ovdo shchem echad. There will be a pure language, el amim, for the peoples, amim, peoples, likro chulam, so that they may all call b'shem havaya le'ovdo, to serve him, shchem echad. So I honestly, I don't know what to do with this Khazari silliness. And Lex, if you're watching, Zion, Lex, if you're watching, and I know you will be, this, you want to call me a Khazari? It's not true. That's the only reason I mind. It's not true. Because, yeah, I actually have done the genetic testing. And my father's family, my Y chromosome, has been in the same area for as long as anything we have shows. Same area, just right smack right there. And let's say I am a convert. We are commanded to love the convert. I was listening to you talk about the greatness of the Moorish Spaniard, Maimonides. I hate to tell you this, but we know the descendants of Maimonides. There's a lot of descendants of Maimonides alive today. All of them are white. So how'd that happen? I mean, just the ignorance and so people on this side of the internet in this little corner are saying to me, why are you bothering? um Amir Ashafra. Berura means pure in the sense of plain candid, so more like plain language. I mean, Borer is essentially I mean, so bar as purity. I think Borer. I mean, we can do this. Um, I think it does come from um, wheat to separate out the purity of wheat. I mean, it is a later Hebrew word. I mean, it only shows up in the later books. But yeah, I mean, so apparently in Arabic, there's bar, pious, kind, true. Um, are you're the same Amir who was on you're the same Amir who was on Vocab's channel, right? To be clear, to select, to cleanse. I think, yeah, Akkadian, to shimmer. Hmm. Um, you're the Emir who was on what you call it on yeah. So you know Ugaritic. I don't. I so I don't really study ancient languages at all. Um, and I would love to have you on my channel, by the way. I mean, I had a lot of disagreements with you. Obviously, you come from a Christian point of view, and I come from a Masoretic point of view. I believe in the Masorah. But okay, yeah, actually, Yosef. So Yosef is somebody who hangs around this part of the internet. Might be more along your alley. He knows his thing. By the way, if you there should be a link to my Discord. You are more than welcome to join my Discord. Oh well, I actually did a video. You know, if you send me either an email or come on my Discord, I will send you a link, and you can come on the channel and we can talk. Um, I would love to have you actually. Um, but what was I saying? Oh, which disagreements? Well, I mean, uh, so Bereshit, right? That it is in the construct form. Rashi very clearly says, and I believe proves that Reshit is in fact in construct form. And then, hey, there you are. Let me get you a link. Just a second. I will. I think I have a link here. Let me get you your link. That's not it. Where is it? There it is. And there you are, my friend. So you should be able to use that link uh, to come on the channel. It would be nice to speak with you. Um, well, so what Rashi says, he says that it's a that So I mean, we can take a look at the Rashi if you want. Let me pull up. So this is the second Rashi in the Torah, and um, it's actually the one I tend to bring up all the time. Hey.
שלום, שלום, מה נשמע איתך?
טוב, תודה. אני לא מדבר כל כך טוב עברית.
לא, 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 לא תדאג, חביבי. הכל בסדר.
אבל אני שומע קצת, אתה מדבר ערבית, לא?
بحكي عربي شوي حبيبي, شوي.
So I speak Farsi. I was born in Iran.
شما چطور هستین؟
خوبم، شما چطور هستین؟
من خوبم, الحمدلله.
Alhamdulillah. So where are you from? I may ask.
Born and raised in the US. That's pretty
Oh,
much it.
okay. Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. Um, and you're learning Ugaritic. Wow.
Well, I'm learning Ugaritic and, well, getting back into biblical Hebrew because I fell off for a little bit because, COVID, work, stress, etc.
Yeah.
And now I'm paying a lot more attention to syntax as well. So,
Yeah.
I watched a bit of your response to Zion, Zion's response to me in vocab, and yeah, I was looking at that particular part from Rashi and Ibn Ezra.
Yeah.
Rashi, I mean, certain points he's pointing to. Well, to give you an example, the Isaiah 29:1, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
So here I just opened it up, and this is what Rashi says. Ein hamikra hazeh omer elad darsheni, which I completely agree with. It's telling us you have to darshan it. You have to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Drashuhu Rabbatenu, like our rabbis taught us, Bishvil HaTorah Nikret Reshit, because of the Torah, which is called Reshit. Reshit Darko, the way of his ways, first of his ways. So Proverbs 8:22, right, has Reshit, and it is in the construct form, right? Because if it wasn't, I mean, you would say Berushona, right?
Actually, can I actually
Go ahead.
poke and prod you on this? Just a little bit, not too much, because would you agree there are instances where Reshit is indistinguishable from an absolute or a construct state? Not in every instance, but just in certain instances.
What? Well, no, it is in a construct state. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, but like typically with nouns that are in construct state, typically there's vowel reduction because the emphasis is being moved to what is proceeding. Like say,
well, Reshit Chochma, right? That is Reshit Chochma. That's Reshit is obviously in the construct state with Chochma.
Yeah, in that instance, it's the case because there's a noun preceding it. In that instance, you would get a construct. You get the construct, and what proceeds is the noun absolute. In that instance, yeah.
So, I mean so Reshit is I think is the construct form of Rishon, beginning.
So help me to clarify, so I don't, because I don't want to misunderstand. I don't want to. I hope I'm not misunderstanding. Are you saying that the yeet ending is an indication of the construct, or are you referring to something else entirely? I just want clarification.
So I have to tell you, I think linguists are a little bit too confident in their rules. I think natural language, especially, we see that the more a the more something is a common of common usage, the more likely it is to actually not fit in with the general rules of grammar that we have. Not that I'm saying the rules of grammar, but like people were speaking Hebrew, right? And
Hmm.
so it seems to me that Rishon, right, is starting or beginning, and Reshit is starting of something. So it is inherently in the construct form, right? It's beginning of, right? Reshit chokhmah, Reshit Yirat Hashem, right? This is something that's used. I mean, I can pull up the concordance and see all the places where Reshit shows up, but
Which concordance?
so I tend to use Bible Hub,
Yeah,
and
I used to do that. I've since moved on to greater things.
Blue Letter, or
Not to be
which website?
facetious, but yeah.
Logos, or what are you
Yeah,
using?
Logos. Yeah, because I had some other thing going on for the last 2 months, and let's just say I burned a huge hole in my pocket buying a whole bunch of Hebrew and Greek lexicons and software.
So I mean, it what is here on Bible Hub, and I mean, as far as I know, it's correct. 51 occurrences of Reshit, right? And honestly, I mean, if you want to go through all the occurrences, we can, but v'tehi reshit mamlachto. That's obviously in the thing.
Hmm.
Ata kochi ve'reshit oni. Again, reshit bikuri, reshit bikurei admatcha.
See,
Reshit tak. Okay,
I
so
think that's the first of my loin. Only, um, sorry, I may be misreading it, but yeah, in that instance, it is in the construct, say, because it's following what's following it, preceding it is
right.
a noun.
I mean,
Because
I'm trying to find
yeah,
a place where that is not true. Uh, okay, here, Reshit, Leviticus 2:12, that appears not to have something
just
after it. Kor,
colonele la
Korban Reshit
teclibo,
Takrivu.
yeah,
Okay, so I guess that's an instance where it's it's not. I
yeah.
guess it's not in the construct. Let's see
Yeah, but
if there's
that's
any.
what I was wait, hold on. Yeah, that's what I
Reshit
was yeah, that's what
Reshit
that yeah.
Yitzirchem is, Reshit Arisotchem is, Reshit Arisotchem again, V'dagan V'reshitam. So that is in the construct because it has a suffix, Reshitam. Reshit Goyim,
That's a pronominal suffix. Yeah.
right. Reshit Hashana, Reshit Degancha, Reshit Gez, Reshit Ono again, Velakachta mereshit kol pri, again, reshit pri, reshit lo, reshit kol, um, reshit hacherem, reshit dagan. I mean, it is, we're looking at 50 times, and I see maybe two. Um, Be'artechem reshit lechol. Okay, so Psalm 105, 36. Maybe that's not.
Yeah,
So that's
Reshit
three.
al or is it on I'm sorry, I'm looking at the
Yeah.
screen, it's a little small for me. So
Sorry. Let me
it's okay, it's
make
okay.
it bigger.
The choice of all fruits. Yeah, you have what precedes is basically the in several preposition lamed and the noun kol, and that's in the construct. So in that instance, that's a construct chain.
Okay. Reshit chochma, reshit darko, reshit madon, reshito again. Reshit acharit, magid mereshit acharit umikedem. I mean, okay, I guess Isaiah 46:10 might be uh
The
Reshit
Magid
Tavo.
Reshit Acharit El
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Reshit, I mean, Acharit there is not in construct form with Reshit. That's obvious. I
yeah,
would say. Um,
yeah. Because
Reshit Mamlechot,
yeah, yeah,
Mamlechet.
because the other day when Zion was responding, particularly with Ve'eleshit being used, because he was arguing Genesis 1:1, Ve'eleshit bara Elohim Ve'eleshit in that instance is in a construct state.
I
And
mean, that's what
yeah,
Rashi says. That
it,
this
that
is
yeah, I get that. It's
yeah.
just like this. The one way to argue this, and this is throwing a bone to you, throwing a bone to Zion too, and uh, the instance for this is the if I remember correctly, it's the restricted relative clause. And actually, hold on, I got Walker O'Connor right here in front of me. Yeah, because I was looking this up earlier just to because I remember coming across this. Are you familiar with Robert Alter's translation of the Hebrew Bible?
I am not. A lot of people have recommended it to me. I mean, yeah. Robert Alter gets so he's very popular among Christians. He's not so popular among believing Jews. And
uh,
obviously, I mean, look, there are over 200 commentaries on Rashi. To disagree with Rashi takes a lot of
I,
cojones.
I don't get why they take issue with him. His rendering is the exact same reason that, well, not exactly for the exact same reason, but
Who's he
I
you're
mean
talking about? You're talking about Alter?
yeah, Robert Alter, like his rendering when God began to create the heavens and the earth.
Oh,
I mean,
hold on. Okay, so so the Pashut Pashat, the basic translation. I'm not going to translate the text differently either, right? But
mhm.
but obviously within Judaism we believe that there's a pardes, a shivim panim laTorah. So all of the various understandings are correct.
Yeah, well, the issue though, particularly like that way that Robert Alter is rendering it, and this isn't just him. Actually, I came across it earlier, and my friend, particular book by Ben Stanhope, misinterpreting Genesis in response to the Creation Museum, and uh, he lays it out. Well, he goes through people like well, Heiser, your favorite, and also Marcus Smith, Robert Homestead, Bruce Wolfgay, and a couple others. But the general gist is their preference for Genesis 1:1 being a dependent clause rather than an independent one.
See,
Because
this is again, so this is what I told vocab. You're coming from a very Christian like point of view of it, and I understand your point of view. And if I'm like, I have no problem with the idea that the if we're translating to English, I would never like use these arguments as far as what should be the first level translation. The thing is that we believe the Torah is true in on several levels, not just one level. So while I mean you look at the Safaria translation and the JPS translation and whatever translation you want to of Genesis 1:1, you're we're all of them say when God began to create heaven and earth. Okay, so that's the JPS 2006. It's not like we're really disagreeing. It's that we also believe in multiple levels of translation. So your arguments, like, yes, I understand and I accept your arguments for what is the plain reading of the text. It's just we don't stick to just the plain reading of the text. We read it on multiple levels simultaneously.
yeah, one's the literal, the other three. Zion had that up the other
Yeah,
day.
Pardes, right.
Yeah,
So
the
Pshat,
other four levels of
Remez,
reading. Yeah,
Drash,
that's
and so yeah,
yeah.
Pardes.
Actually, ancient early Christian tradition has some. Well, yeah, early Christian tradition has that four senses. Oregon
So
proposes it. Yeah, so something
yeah,
similar to that. But
you
yeah,
told, so if I remember correctly, you told vocab you were in the messianic movement for a while.
yeah, I was. I
Okay,
went to a Messianic congregation for
okay,
a good
and
chunk of my
and
life. Yeah.
a lot of the messianists, I know, will argue that in fact all of the places where the Greek Bible or New Testament, as Christians call it, um, like takes things out of context is in fact, reading it on second and third and fourth level, because obviously the the a lot of the things that are in even the gospels are obviously not what you would read of that text in its simple form, right?
Mm, not sure I'm exactly following. Well,
Well,
if you
let's
mean,
do the famous one where Paul says that, the so his reading of do, do not muzzle the ox as it threshes.
yeah, that's a midrash, if I'm not mistaken.
So as a Christian, I mean, you can't um you can't just throw away the possibility of midrashic interpretation without also negating who I affectionately call Baal of Tarsus.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, as far as quoting, well, particular quoting that context, that wasn't my main issue with Zion.
Mm,
And the other day when I was watching you stream and you referenced, I knew we were going Zion, but you didn't. Me and Vocab missed it, but you didn't because you knew he was going with it. But
yeah.
he uh he dropped the ball because the latter part of the video
Oh,
uh,
right. So he actually got into Gnosticism and like the demiurge and things like that. So what he said was that Havaya created Elohim, and
mhm.
it's like, okay, there's there are there's tons of theology there, that honestly, again, I mean, I love Protestants, but I do think sola scriptura is a self-refuting idea, uh,
I don't hold
because
the sola scriptura. I'm more prima scriptura. So
okay, okay, but like I assume you believe in the Trinity.
yeah, of course.
Okay, so I mean that, I believe, I mean, unless you want to tell me you believe the Trinity actually comes from Scripture, it took hundreds of years to develop, right?
Uh, Not exactly. You still had like trying to figure the right word for it. You still had like um kind of hints of it. Well, not specifically the Trinity, but the uh like God's oneness being or divine fluidity, like God has bodies and times, places, and localities, and or like say two powers thinking, like let's see, what's the guy's name again? Philo's Logos theology,
Right. So
and yeah.
are you aware of the Lord of Spirits podcast?
Uh, I've only heard it in passing. I haven't really paid too much attention to this stuff. I got I think his name's Stephen
Stephen
DeYoung.
DeYoung?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got his book. I just haven't
Oh,
really
I
had much
want
time to
to
read it.
read. Yeah, I want to read it, but I have too many books I already bought that I haven't read yet.
Do you
Um,
have Larry Hurtado?
I have heard of him. I don't know exactly who
Well,
that is.
he's passed away.
Okay.
Passed cancer over a year ago.
So
Rest soul.
Sam, who's part of our little corner of the internet here, he's our resident Unitarian. I think he brought him up. He actually had Father DeYoung on his channel.
Hmm.
And Father DeYoung, again, I mean, he's a Trinitarian. He's an Eastern Orthodox pastor, father, or whatever they call him, a priest. And like, there's lots of things we can disagree about as people who understand what we're talking about, and but that's on a completely other level than um, than Zion Lex. I mean, here, listen to him trying to read Hebrew. Okay, I queued this up. Is this? Yeah, I think this is it.
Oh,
Um,
before you do, can I ask you something?
sure.
What is what is your opinion of chokhmah being a compound of hachach and ma?
So what he get? Okay, so what the Kabbalists talk about is that chokhmah is the same letters as koach ma, the power of ma, right? And that's because it's the same letters as koach ma, not that
Hmm.
chokhmah comes from. I mean, so he doesn't even know the difference between his chetz and his chafs, and so like I don't think he understood. It's koach ma. You have to you have to invert the first two letters,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And
that's actually one of the things I noticed too. He tends to geminate his resh a lot of the time when the dictates of Hebrew grammar is the resh and garos cannot be geminated.
huh. Okay. So you know a lot more about the actual diktuk than I do, because again, I'm an insurance agent, right? Right? Like this is
Yeah, I got you.
I don't claim to be some sort of great teacher. And my when you first came on, like we started speaking a little bit in Hebrew. My Hebrew is not that good. When I was in Israel, because I mostly studied biblical Hebrew, the only person who understood me was my cousin, who's an archaeologist, right? Because she understood like I was taking all kinds of roots and putting them in binyanim that modern Hebrew doesn't use.
Hmm.
And because I and the idea that I would charge someone to teach them Hebrew when I don't know it that well is like that's just wrong, especially considering. So on Thursday I'm going to have a whole thing of all the free resources you can use instead of spending $300 uh, um,
Yeah.
on on somebody
Uh,
who doesn't even know basic Hebrew. Like he can. So here, let me.
I do have a recommendation for you specifically on modern Hebrew. The perfect way to learn modern Hebrew, watch
Mm,
Folda.
watch what?
Folda.
Falda? What is that?
Uh, well, Folda, the word literally means chaos or in Arabic, but it's also an Israeli Palestinian show on Netflix. It's about the
honestly
yeah.
honestly, I mean, in my work I use Spanish, and I speak Farsi to my family, and like learning another language is just learning modern Hebrew has not been a thing. But so
Oh,
his
modern Hebrew is easier than biblical Hebrew. I could tell you that.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I have such a hard time reading without nekudot and things like that.
Well, yeah, that'll be a challenge.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
yeah,
they're using all these words like uh, they're using all these loan words from different languages, and
yeah, they're
I
using Arabic cuss words.
that too, and like the first time you come up to, pardon my French, the word dafuk, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
you're
like,
crazy. Yeah, you're
knocking? What are
not.
you
Yeah, you're
talking?
crazy.
It's
Not right in the head.
knocked.
Yeah, tapuk.
What?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's so I have no interest in getting more confused with modern Hebrew. But
yeah.
like,
The yeah,
did you see at the beginning he had Ibrim, right? And it
yeah. That Dagesh is not supposed to be in the bait, and That
And
second yod.
either you have the second yod with a chirik under the first yod, or you don't have either one. You can't have a chirik under the first resh, and then
Not only that, but the first yod, it has the weak dagesh in it. Well,
right.
sorry. It has the strong dagesh in
Yeah,
it, and that second yod, by implication, is unnecessary
right.
because the strong dagesh in a consonant already geminates it.
Well,
So
so this is where this is how it is in, I believe it's Exodus 3:18, wherever he claimed he
yeah,
got it from. And it's like, yeah, this is an acceptable way of writing it. The I'll give you the second one, right? I think the second one is wrong, and I think anybody in modern Hebrew reading that would think, "Are you saying Ibrahim, Israelayim? Like, are you using the dual?" Uh, but but
Yisrael, yeah,
yeah, but
Yisrael,
yeah, Israelayim, right? You
yeah.
would think that he's using the dual, but I'll give you either one. And this obviously, even though it's rare in the Bible, it only shows up one time. Okay, you can say that, but how he had written, like, I don't even know how to count how many mistakes he had.
Yeah, the tzere is not supposed to be under the resh. The resh is supposed to have a schwa,
Shva,
and
yeah,
the tzere is supposed to be under the aleph. And
and they're
yeah,
supposed to be an aleph.
yeah,
It's like you're missing like one of the actual consonants. Like, we're not even talking about like how you're it's missing the aleph. And without the geshem, if you were to see this, right, if it was not menukad, without the sin, without the smoli, right, the dagesh smoli on the sin, how would you even know this was Israelim? That you wouldn't. So he doesn't even have kindergarten Hebrew. Like, I'm not greatly learned in Hebrew. He doesn't even know kindergarten Hebrew.
well, he claims that he was in a rush to make this, and I'm just assuming that just to be charitable.
Hold on,
Not
that
gonna
was my
go.
assumption. That's what I said to vocab, and he spent half an hour calling me it, saying it was blatant racism for me to assume that he must have just gotten it somewhere where that was wrong. So it's this is why. So I've been saying he it's a dumb mistake, but whatever. It's dumber to then when I pointed out for you to defend it, but it's dumbest to go as far as he does and call me a racist and all that. And that's why I say he's dumb, dumber, and dumbest all in one person. He is the trinity of dumb.
Yeah. Well, like and I actually vocab sent me this video earlier today because he took a bit from his response the other day
Mm,
and uploaded that particularly with Bereshit bara Elohim.
mm,
Uh, he was literally saying it that like he was going strictly from the interlinear, and he held up the the Biblia Hebraica
yeah,
Studengartensia,
yeah. The
and then he held
VHS,
up
yeah.
another one, but it was the one that has the ESV translation beside it.
I mean,
And claiming, asking, saying, he was addressing me specifically,
right.
saying, "So you tell me you know more than these guys?" Okay, I'll say off the fly, I don't. They'd probably kick my ass if
But that's
I
not what
touch
they're
them.
doing there. Like, so
Yeah,
he calls the BHS, or is it HBS? I always get it
the
confused.
BHS.
BHS. So he calls the BHS the teacher's edition of the Tanakh, and I'm like, no. It's the
Actually, it was the other
translation.
one.
It's the
Well,
translators. That it's the Mikraot Gedolot, the rabbinic Bible that you would call the teacher's edition.
yeah, it was the second one, the one with the ESV translation beside the Hebrew in the Biblica Hebraica with the
Right.
ESV. That was the one he was referencing as the teacher's one. The BHS, that first one, he was saying this is for every serious student of the Hebrew Bible. But
And it's
his
like
this
only
is
if you care about the manuscripts. I
well
don't
that
care about the
yeah
manuscripts. I
well
believe in the Masorah.
well
So
that's just the thing.
they can go
He's
kick
a he.
sand.
Well, that's just the thing. He's appealing to those two, particularly the people that compiled it all together. Um, I would challenge Zion. Uh, I would actually challenge Zion that the people who compiled all that would vehemently disagree with his in the beginning he
Oh
created
yeah.
God rendering.
Yeah, they're all Christians, right?
Uh, they are, but it's not because they're Christian, but simply because of the fact Genesis 1:1 is a clause. And a clause has a subject and has a predicate. And the predicate is bara. And the subject of that predicate is Elohim. And
Uh, I again, I'm gonna have. I mean, look, the we do have a teaching that so you can read Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz as that the ineffable created Elohim. So we do have that reading, and I don't think it's an indefensible reading. I think, but obviously that's not something most Christians will agree with. Although I have heard of Trinitarians trying to use that as a Trinitarian argument.
I, I've I've heard that argument too, and I'll just as a disclaimer, I do not believe that's in reference to the Trinity, specifically Elohim, because it's in the plural state. Uh,
Well, it's not a question of the
it's a majestic
plural, but
plural.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. The, well,
With
there's
the
no
other,
argument
yeah.
Trinitarians won't make.
But just well,
Yeah.
here's the reason, because biblical Hebrew is a verb subject object language, which means that the verb is going to precede the subject in that manner in the
Uh,
sentence structure. And
Come on. No, no,
well,
no. I
at
don't
least
think you can
hold
say that.
on.
I don't
Well,
think you can say that. But look, Vahaaretz haita tohu vavohu. That's subject verb. Vayomer Elohim. Okay. Yehi or.
Yahi or Wahi or yeah.
Okay. Vayar Elohim. Okay. Uh, but I mean, the haaretz haita, right? And so I don't think Hebrew is either way. I think you can, in fact, and again with the continuous, right? With the vavs and the thing, it is a little bit different. All of these are continuous, but like
Well, well, it as far as continuous, that's going to be determined primarily by the context of the surrounding constituents of the situation.
Right, but
So,
I'm
yeah.
saying, I mean, the sentence beginning with a verb, um, I think it does have to have some linkage. I think you're going to find fewer sentences that um, that are verb, subject, object, um,
Well,
if it's not in the continuous.
well, j- well, with regards to Bereshit in the beginning of, this is going back to the Robert Alter issue in the translation by the 2000, I think you said 2016 JPS, if I'm not
2006, I think it was.
2006.
Yeah,
My
it's
apologies.
2006.
Well,
I'm not a fan of the JPS, by the way. They're not an Orthodox Jewish organization.
okay. Well, anyway, but like this is why I kind of find it a little bit odd, because I don't they don't entirely disagree with Rashi on this, particularly on this one issue. Because here's why. The issue is that Bereshit, rather than being this goes back to the independent dependent clause issue. Because an independent clause would make it a sequence of events that God created the heavens and the earth, and it was empty and void, or empty and waste, or
Mm,
void and
yeah.
or etc. Uh,
However you want to phrase
but
it.
so basically, God created heavens and earth, and it was empty and void. That kind of doesn't make entirely sense. It doesn't really make entirely too much sense, and it comes from a traditional view. And the other is where the dependent clause comes into play, and that uh, Bereshit is let's see what was oh yeah, a restricted relative clause. Just to give an example, and this is from Isaiah 29:1, because I was looking it up earlier, and I found it in Volcano O'Connor's book. Gilead Hana David, the city where David settled. Basically, you would have that see that relative, not relative pronoun, but that basically you have kieliat right there. That's in the singular feminine construct state, and what proceeds is a verb in the proper noun. So,
I'm not quite sure what you're arguing, that reshit there isn't necessarily something in a construct that
oh, no,
doesn't
no, no.
then have.
That's
What are you
actually
arguing?
oh, that's what I was that's what I was asking earlier. Why I don't know why people would take issue with Altar's translation, because it's more in line with what Rashi was trying to get at with Bereshit and Genesis 1 being.
Well, no. I don't honestly, like, I've never looked at Alter's translation. I know he's not an Orthodox Jew. As far as
Mhm,
I know, he's not an Orthodox Jew.
mhm,
And honestly, within Jewish Orthodoxy, we don't really use translations.
mhm,
So it's like, I'm for me, like, okay, I have this channel where I help people who don't know Hebrew, like, look at the Hebrew, but that's mostly, I mean, almost all my viewership is Gentile. There's as far as Jews go, if you're going to religiously be a religious Orthodox Jew, you have to learn Hebrew. So the whole idea of, like, all these translations and stuff, it just doesn't compute within Judaism.
mhm. Yeah, well, no translation's going to be perfect either way, because
So
it's in yeah.
the comparison I make is, I say a translation is like a picture. And if you can't get to the ocean, a picture of the ocean is beautiful. But if you want to go swimming, you can't go swimming in a picture of the ocean. And that's the problem with the exegesis, or I never know how to say that word.
Exegesis.
Exegesis. The exegesis of Christians is, they do it in translation. And I mean, yes, so this is Father DeYoung's big thing with Judaism. In in response to Christian exegesis in translation, Judaism's like, no, we will not do this. But, and I realize, and I do think that is in fact a reaction, but it's a reaction that I believe is warranted, because in translation you can go anywhere you like. You really can.
Well,
And to do exegesis in translation, I think is an incredible mistake, and I think it's the reason why we have Christianity.
I'm gonna have to disagree because
Well, you are a Christian after all.
yeah, well, of course I'm a Christian. I'm compelled to disagree with everything.
No, but you are compelled to disagree. So
So
the
I said
Greek
yeah,
exegesis.
I said
Oh,
compelled, but
how much
yeah,
how
but
much Aramaic do you know?
very, very little. I mean, I know Abba is Aramaic, and let's see,
Okay, so
the definite article is the Aleph at the end, and
I wish I had looked
let's
this up
see.
before. Matthew Aramaic, um, Square script. I can't read the Syriac script. Oh, I had it. So if you look at the Peshitta,
Oh,
uh,
and
yeah,
there's another part of Aramaic I do know, Abunde Bashmaya, but that's just
oh,
about it.
Yeah, and well, I'm guessing you know Lama Sabachthani.
Yeah. Why have you forsaken, abandoned me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sabachthani. But
Or
if you look
Shabachthani.
if you look at if you look at the Peshita, right, and you how they translate Son of Man, I did a whole video on it, and I would actually be really interested in your uh, thoughts about that video, because it seems to me that the people who were translating, when I first saw it, honestly, I kind of got mad and I thought, these people know that Jesus was speaking in Aramaic. They know that the Greek theology doesn't follow what Jesus said. And that's why when they translated it back to Aramaic, they're using these clearly strange formations for Son of Man. But after thinking about it a little while, I was like, no, they must have thought that Jesus was speaking in Greek and they were trying to avoid people misunderstanding Jesus, because what Jesus says in the Aramaic, to me, it seems quite clear it's very different from the Greek. And that's why they had to translate it differently.
Hmm. Well, I haven't really done too much study into the Peshitta, so uh,
I have a video called "Son of Man" debate. I
mhm.
would be really interested when if you have time in what your thoughts are on that video.
Sure. Yeah, I'll look at the video and I'll look more into the issue. It's
Hmm.
just yeah. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and state this. Aramaic was on my list of one language I
It's not
intended
very
to
different
learn.
from Hebrew.
Uh,
It's pretty. I mean, if you
I
know
mean,
Arabic and you know Hebrew, it's not. I mean,
well,
some of the roots are different, but it's pretty
yeah,
much the same. Yeah,
yeah,
it's.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah, because yeah, it was one of the languages I intended to learn, but well, life and other things popped up, and it's like
Life is
crap.
important.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, it's not just right now. I would love to have. I mean, this corner of the internet, we definitely respect people who, like you, are looking into things seriously and discussing them seriously. And it so I just want to make it really clear that I'm not just like saying these things about Zion Lex because I disagree with him. Of course, I disagree with him. I disagree with vocab. I disagree with you. I disagree with pretty much everybody I have on my show because I disagree with everybody. I don't know anybody who agrees with me on everything.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's fine to have disagreements. Yeah, I
but
mean,
he doesn't.
it's about just being it's about وَهَبْتَ لَرِيعَكَ كَمُوخَ.
That's
Basically.
important. But there, you also have to be modeh al ha'emet,
Hmm. Yeah.
and you have to confess when something is true. And honestly, I mean, it's so obvious. I don't know if you were here when I was showing those three Bible verses. You were, Stephania 3:9. Like the idea that the Old Testament or the Tanakh uh, supports this concept that is that the Jews thought Gentiles were all going to hell, right? Yeah, I realize that's Paul's theology, but it is not. So this is why you have to reinterpret Paul the way that so many Christians are doing, and to bring him back into Judaism, because when you read the Old Testament, when you read the Tanakh, obviously no intelligent person can read the Tanakh and think that um, that Judaism teaches that Gentiles are going to hell. That's it's obviously false.
Yeah. Well, for starters, in the Hebrew Bible, hell doesn't exist.
I would disagree with that, but
Uh,
okay.
uh, I mean, the best you can argue for is there's a underworld,
There is a
Sheol.
Sheol and there is
Yeah, it's the underworld
and
where all the dead
look,
would go, and in
we're
instances you'd
not
have deified dead. So,
well. the, Again, I'm not a huge fan of Heiser, but
well,
look,
it's not just Heiser. It's
the
also Marcus
deified
Smith and John
dead,
Day and Coogan.
deified dead. I'm sorry, but Heiser, in order to defend his beliefs in the Trinity, he goes way too far by saying that the Elohim in I believe it's Exodus, by the Shvuah and by the piercing ceremony of the slave that doesn't want to go free, that those are teraphim. Like, how can you be an Orthodox Christian
Well,
and
he's
believe that God was telling people to do rituals in front of teraphim and get answers?
well, that's yeah. He's taking more the ancestral house deities, house
And
idols.
you're
Yeah,
getting
that's just
answers
one.
from the ancestors, because it says the one that the Elohim declare guilty shall pay, right? So
Hmm.
where are you getting these answers from? Like, isn't that like necromancy?
Mm, I I mean, Heiser's taken one position. There's three in particular that are argued for.
I mean,
One
I've read
one's
his
a
arguments,
teraphim.
but he
What?
should not make he should he should the teraphim argument is not something that an Orthodox Christian should be willing to make, but he makes it because he needs to defend the Trinity.
I'm not sure how you defend the Trinity with a teraphim
I
reading.
agree. I agree with you.
Well, that I'm not even sure he. Well, I'd have to double check, but I think I know what you're talking about, and I'm not
So,
sure if he
so
was arguing
he
for the
says,
Trinity in that
he
instance.
says that the word Elohim is never used of human beings. That's his assertion, which he and his fans uh, really do defend, and I think it's obviously wrong. It's obviously wrong.
Well, uh, I mean, the best you could probably aim for is it's a psalm. Well, there's two instances I could possibly think of. One is it's one of the Psalms. It's about God, your God has anointed you. That would be in reference to the king. In that instance, it's because the king is in some way in a cooperative relationship with God. In that instance, that would be one instance. The other would be Samuel's ghost or his spirit
Well, that's a
coming up
ghost. So
during the Witch of Endor
yeah,
incident.
so that's a ghost, but like actual human beings. So I think Jesus, that's what Jesus was saying when he said Ani amarti Elohim etem, right? I think that's very clearly what Jesus was saying. um he
Well, yeah, he's
he was
calling.
saying that human beings can in fact be called Elohim, and he's right.
Um, uh, I'm gonna have to disagree.
You don't have to I mean, you don't
Yeah,
have to defend whatever. I'm not
yeah, yeah.
this
I
isn't a
mean,
debate.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
just
yeah.
having a
It's not a
discussion.
debate. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
debate. We're both gonna have to disagree on that and just leave it there for yeah. But yeah, I disagree. But yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's not a debate. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's
So
not.
may I
Yeah.
ask you, so what don't I mean, you don't have to dox yourself, but tell me more about yourself, like just interested to get to know you a little bit better. Whatever you feel
Um.
okay in sharing.
Well, I'm Christian. You
Okay.
already know. And aside
Right
from that,
now?
yeah, and yeah.
May I ask, did you grow
Anyway,
up Christian?
I grew up in I grew up on the East Coast.
Okay.
Uh, not gonna divulge any further from that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Yeah, other than that, I'm just some weird guy who just likes to study ancient languages,
Hey, that's
ancient
beautiful.
Semitic languages specifically. The only possible European language I could make exception to is, well, the only one I ever make exception to is Spanish.
Okay.
All other European languages are gibberish to me. No.
Have you looked into trying to learn Koine Greek at all?
Uh, I have, and well, life and etc. But I'm trying to get back into it.
Uh-huh.
It's just it takes a while to get a handle on because it's the inflection of the language is and the tenses are
Right.
much more complex than Hebrew is. Uh, uh,
I've been reading this book, Loom of Language. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's available online for free. I believe it's out of copyright, but it's definitely available online for free. And it's the author is kind of annoying, but I learned a lot. So I used to dismiss linguists a lot more than I do now. I've listened to a few linguistics podcasts. I have a lot of respect for John McWhorter, even though I haven't really looked into his linguistic works. So I've started because honestly, like Chomsky is such a clown. I always thought linguistics must be at least partially clownish. Um, but yeah, I've started gaining some respect for linguistics as as an actual discipline.
yeah, well, I'm I'm like a certain friend of mine. I'm kind of an amateur linguist ish. I'm actually I got a book on linguistics. I just uh,
I
yeah.
recommend Loom of Language. I've recommended it to several people. And after the broadcast, hopefully I don't know how involved you are with Discord, but if you stick around my Discord, um, I mean we can discuss this stuff forever. You're
Mhm.
definitely welcome to stick around as much as you like.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Tonight may not be a good night because I get for work and I gotta get a lot. I gotta get some of my reading done with
Uh-huh.
Hebrew and syntax and etc. I gotta get all that compressed in before I go to sleep. But yeah.
You sound like a really interesting guy. And now you have access to my Discord and my channel. I think you'll actually enjoy speaking with Yosef a lot more. He's active, although he's also very busy. And yeah, hopefully you'll like our little community.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Yeah. Well, it was really nice to meet you, Amir. Uh,
I'm Gam.
was there any type of stuff you definitely wanted to make sure you included, or?
See. Well, there was one more thing. It
Mhm.
wasn't in the responses Zion made. It was previous one he made, which Zion did not touch on in his response. And that was the idea of Eloah being a feminine noun.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, that. So this is my big problem with Zion and Black Hebrew Israelites in general. They like I can disagree with you. I disagree with Father Stephen DeYoung quite vociferously. I disagree with Michael Heiser, but they're not clowns. They're people who know what they're talking about. They've looked at all of the arguments that are available, etc. And it's okay. Somebody's getting going into a timeout. Um, um, and the what was I saying? Sorry, somebody put in something disgusting in the chat. But there is a fundamental difference between reasonable people disagreeing and people who are just plain ignorant, don't have any idea what they're talking about. Um, making all kinds of assertions which are obviously false and easily refuted, and
Mm-hmm.
continue to make them even when they are refuted. Like I honestly thought that when I pointed out his mistakes to Zion Lex, that he would in fact, I didn't expect him to spend his time calling me a racist. And that's like this whole like him claiming that that's where he got it from. That's just a straight up lie. He obviously, that's not where he got it from.
Yeah, if that was the case, then why do you have a Dageshan debate when it's not supposed to be there?
Exactly. Like, who put the Dagesh in the bet there, right? And the fact was, when he was looking at this on Safaria, he was not seeing that it's obviously different from what he had, and I think that's because he's used to ignoring the ta'amim. Like, I see his mistakes. I'm very familiar with his mistakes because I teach people who don't know any Hebrew just to read, right? So if you teach people who don't know any Hebrew to read, they will read precisely how he does, which is they don't know when it's ta'amim or nekudot. And I mean, when you listen to him, um, I know you said you didn't have time, but when you listen to him reading, or when he called me a Mitzraki, right?
Uh,
Like that's not just a mistake to say Mizrahi Mitzraki, right?
it's Mizrahi, not
It,
Mizraki.
Mitzraki, right? If you were an Ashkenazi Jew in Israel talking to about a Mizrahi Jew, and you called him Mitzraki, you'd get a punch in your face.
Eek.
Mitzraki, weak sauce, really? And he didn't he wasn't doing it on purpose. I realize that, but when you don't know the difference between a Zion and a Tzadi, and a Het and either way, as a kuf or as a chaf, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
you, it's obvious he doesn't even speak elementary Hebrew. Like the two of us, I'm not very good at modern Hebrew, that's for sure. And you
Well,
know,
well,
we can talk.
yeah, that's what I noticed also. Like, or it particularly, I don't know if in his other videos, but particularly in that discussion he had with that philologist over a year ago on a different channel,
I didn't
he was
see that.
uh yeah, I highly recommend you do watch it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
well, I
I'll probably drop it in the Discord when I get off. But
okay. Listen,
um,
listen to
yeah,
him trying to read here. Listen to him trying to read. Bain Adam, not Ben Adam. Bain Adam. And it's
mm,
like, if you don't
what
know the difference between a Ben Adam and a Bain Adam,
is it, a segol or a tzere?
well, it's honestly, Bain would be with a yud, right? It
That
would be
would
it would
in
be
a
a
long
real,
I class
yeah,
vowel. Yeah, it would be a right
yeah.
there.
Bain means between.
But
So,
it because I have also heard others uh because I
but
have
that's a
heard that tzere.
segol there.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
segol.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
then
So
yeah, yeah. With segol, that's
Ashkenazim,
a ben. That's a
yeah.
sound, not a
So
sound.
yeah. So Ashkenazim will in fact like do a with a tzere, but uh, honestly, it's like it's obvious, and when he reads, he's saying the words like he says. So he was reading this, and he read Ben Adam, Sim Panecha El Gog, Eretz Hamagog, right? And he read it El Eretz, El Gog Eretz, and it's like, so you don't understand what you're saying because that's a compound, Eretz Hamagog, right? That's a
Yeah.
construct.
Yeah.
and so he doesn't even know the words. He, he doesn't know basic Hebrew, and he's charging people $300. I actually have the receipts here. He's charging $300 to teach Hebrew.
Yeah, people are better off spending $100 on Michael Heiser's Memra Hebrew courses.
There's
Uh,
all kinds of things. Look, you're better off free Duolingo if you want to pay like Rosetta Stone. Like there's
well,
so much
well,
available out there.
well, Duolingo teaches modern Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew. There's another one. It's kind of like Duolingo, only a little I forget what it's called, but they did have biblical Hebrew and Aramaic on there. The name of the app it escapes me at the moment though. But yeah, they have it
There's
on
a
it.
lot of, I mean, if you want to pay a lot of money, there's all kinds of ulpans, there's all kinds of tutors available online who are actually Israelis.
Well, Ulpans are actually more expensive than Zion,
Some of them
unfortunately.
are, yeah,
Yeah.
but many of them
Well,
are, yeah.
actually, there
But
is.
they're real.
Yeah. Well, actually, people can learn Hebrew for free just by looking on YouTube at for Hebrew
Yeah,
courses,
yeah.
biblical Hebrew courses. They're free. They don't charge you for it.
I
Yeah,
don't
you'll have
charge
yeah.
people, and I teach more Hebrew. Like I will sit there and like listen to you trying to read Aleph Bet, you know, and Bereshit, and I will do that. That's fine. But for me to charge, I mean, I guess I could charge a tiny bit for something like that, but like $300, really? It's a fraud. It's an absolute fraud.
Yeah, it's really a scam. uh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like,
and and he pretends like he's a religious person. You know,
mm,
that really gets me under, that really gets under my skin when I see people who are, you know, using religion in order to defraud people who are actually, you know, good people who are, I'm sure everybody who's paying him $300 is somebody who's like, you know what, I'm learning biblical Hebrew, I am getting closer to God. And it's like, well, not this way, you're not.
y- yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't need to spend like the options are look for, say, Hebrew course online or just watch the stuff that's on YouTube, more particularly actual biblical Hebrew courses, like say from a theological seminary or from a university, and even look up syntax, etc. You could literally learn that all for
Masters
free. I
Master's
bet
Seminary has their entire Hebrew course online, and I listen to it just to make sure I know the stuff. But like, they have it all available for free on YouTube. So why would you need
exactly the only
Zion?
yeah the only hole in your pocket you're going to be burning from watching that is on pencils and notebook paper.
Right. Or buy, you know, there's all kinds of workbooks you can get online. And I would actually be interested to see what his curriculum is, like what he actually uses to teach people. But he obviously, like, and I was listening to him, he said something like the Paal stem is in the past tense, and I was like, what do you, like, he didn't use tense, so he was using the binyanim like they were tenses, and it's like he
mm,
he obviously doesn't actually know Hebrew.
like mm, opinion, like does he even know what in what that was the thing in his response to the Bereshit part with me. He kept going when he went to those instances of Bereshit. I'm like, you do realize those instances in Jeremiah 26 and 27, those are construct chains, right?
I
because of
don't
the.
think he knows, but yeah, the way he read El Eretz, right? El Gog Eretz, right?
Hmm.
I don't think he actually. I have no idea where he's learned or how much he's learned, but the idea of paying someone who doesn't doesn't realize the difference between Mizrahi and Mitzraki, right? Or
Hmm.
doesn't look at Ibrim Israelim and and obviously think, you know, and I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I gave him a lot of benefit of the doubt. And then watching him like dig, like it was almost painful. I actually I went into his chat and I and they obviously hid me like immediately, but I went into his chat and I would have stopped him. And then when he came on Vocab's channel, like in the chat, I told him exactly what he was doing wrong, right? And again, he just keeps on digging. He just keeps on digging.
Yeah, because that's where, like, in that discussion I mentioned earlier with that philologist he was in discussion with,
Mm.
he literally laid out the reason why his particular interpretation. But he laid out the he laid out specific claims by Zion that don't line up. Um, the Chochmah one, the Eloah one, and also the Genesis 1:1:1. And well, Zion, in response, didn't really refute why, didn't really refute the philologist's arguments and claims. Matter of fact, he gave instances where he didn't really seem to understand what he was talking about, uh, and got really aggressive and ad homish.
Mm.
So,
Well, that's
uh,
what he does. I mean, he thought, I'm sure he thought threatening my business and calling me a racist. And look, most people, if I had a normal job or I was actually worried, like they went on my Facebook and put in all kinds of comments on my business Facebook about how I am a racist and I hate black people supposedly and all this type of stuff. And part of the funny thing is your clown Hebrew Israelites, you guys are openly racist. So like I don't even
um,
understand why, like how it's an insult for somebody who actually believes in racism to call me racist, other than they know it's something, it's like a weapon they can wield against people who have either some guilt or some worry or are afraid, which is not me.
yeah, like, if they're gonna level the charge of racism, they have to justify how and why it's racist. Like, if you're just contesting particularly his arguments and claims, showing, hey, this is false, this is nonsense, it's bollocks, and here's why, that's not racism. That is merely that is really dialectic. You're interrogating the validity and substance of claims and
But
ideas.
he can't have that because that it's all a con. He is a con man, and that's why, like, and look, it was kind of when he had that clip where I showed it earlier. um there was that clip where he's like, people are watching, and so yeah, this is wrong. And it's like, well, if I wasn't watching, were you just gonna do what he did do at the beginning, which was switch to something else and then go to commercial break, and then he came back and admitted that what he was saying was bullshit.
Wow.
I mean, watching this whole, I mean, first of all, him calling me a Khazar, like, okay, you want to call me a Khazar, call me a Khazar. Obviously, I mean, the reason why you're saying it is because, and this, he has 23,000 views almost on this and over 1,000 likes, and it's 48 minutes, and 30 minutes into it he says, what I quoted there was, uh yeah, this is wrong. It's like, delete your channel, man. Just delete your channel.
Might as well.
And I said this to Vocab. Um, I really think that he realizes that if he were to admit he doesn't know Hebrew, there's a lot of people who are going to want their money back,
Hmm.
and
If he
and
admits it, he'll come to naught.
and Satan gives you burdens that like will actually chain you with gold, right? And Satan gave him all of this money and all of this success by him lying about his capabilities. And if he were to come honest, right? And I said to Vocab, I would try to raise money to help him pay those people back, because I know there's going to be people who would be very angry with him if he were to admit that he doesn't know Hebrew. But and
Hmm.
and honestly, I think Satan is that's Satan's hold on him. And um if I could, I would make it go away for him. I obviously I'm not that rich. I don't know how much money he's charged, but I think if he were willing to come honest, I think he would actually have a bigger channel. I think he would actually gain, um, and certainly I would try to make sure that he gains more from his honesty than he did from his dishonesty. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, like and this was right around the end of Friday stream. Vocab brought up two books. Well, he brought up three books that Zion's written. One of which I may possibly get and read purely out of criticism, but more particularly, uh, one particularly he claims with the transatlantic slave trade in Deuteronomy 28:68. That is a argument that's dead on arrival. Um,
yeah.
he actually brought this up in in that particular response he made to Vocab and Heiser.
Mm.
He read from the Hebrew text, but what I noticed is he translated it 3/4 of the way. He did not translate the last part,
Yeah.
and there is no purchaser, there's no
Right.
buyer.
Right. Well,
Uh,
I mean, there's a lot of criticisms you can make. It's obviously theologically bankrupt stuff. The problem
well, his
is,
claim in particular, well, his claim in particular is that this can be used figuratively. Well, how do you tell which? Well, like, what is figurative about it? What is selling yourself figurative about? So, what is Egypt figurative about? What is Hashem bringing you back in the past that I said to you, you shall not see it again? What is that figurative
what
of?
I have noticed is he seems to have a lot of actual Jewish sources, and he thinks that he can take their uh, the Jewish sources and he's basically plagiarizing. But I made this graphic just for him, like, right. So I don't know if you've heard this, like sheker and emet. We say sheker ein lo reglayim
Mm-hmm.
because the shin kuf resh, first of all, they're all at the end of the alphabet. And
Mm-hmm.
emet, right, it has reglayim, it has it's solid on the bottom. and Aleph is at the beginning, Mem is in the middle, and Taf is at the end. And like when you take Emet, right, and you change it a little bit, it turns into Sheker. That's all Sheker is, you know, it in order for there to be lies, they have to have a grain of truth in them. And what he's taking is all of these rabbinic texts, all these things within Judaism, he's changing them to actually fit what he's trying to teach. And in changing them, he takes them from emet and he turns them into sheker.
Yeah, he distorts it for his own gain.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this is not going to go well for him if he continues like this.
Well, that's what I don't get. Like he's appealing to like, well, particularly like Deuteronomy 28:68. Rashi strongly disagrees with him on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, but look, almost 23,000 views on his video, on Khazar Gematria. Like he doesn't have it displayed how many subscribers he has, but however many subscribers he has, he gets a lot of engagement. You know, his other video calling me a racist that had my picture on it, right? That that one, I went in there while he was broadcasting. There were 500 people live watching. That's a lot of people. And I was watching another thing with Vocab. Vocab estimated over 1 million people who who identify themselves as Black Hebrew Israelites. That's an amazing number.
I wonder how many of them accept Lashon Kadash, because
Lashawan
Zion Lexx.
Kadash. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder I wonder how many of them are following him. That 1 million, because I find that if that is the case, I find that extremely odd. Because even Zion Lexx says Lashon Kadash is garbage.
Well, yeah, I mean, Lashawan Kadash, it's obviously garbage, but he's not that much better. I mean, he's fronting. He doesn't actually know Hebrew very well. I mean, he certainly knows a lot better than it. So what I keep on saying is, the Mishnah Avot says, be Zanav Zanav Aryeh and not Rosh Leshualim, right? Be a tail to lions and not the head of foxes. And you know, it's it's really faint praise to say you are the best out of the clown Hebrew Israelites. He seems to be the best out of them, but that's not really saying much. Hey Michael, how you doing? You are echoing, Michael. When I speak, I am hearing myself back. Make sure you turn. It's an option on settings with thing. Yeah, you can turn off. Where was it? In audio, echo can turn on. Make sure you have echo cancellation on. So Amir, Michael is actually. Yeah, I'm hearing myself again. Michael is actually one of these Protestants that I allow on my channel. I still hear myself whenever I
There's
speak.
an echo.
Yeah, there's an echo. I allow all these Protestants on. I don't know why.
Oh, okay, is that better?
Yeah, I'm not hearing myself again.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I just can't use the external mic with this StreamYard app, I guess. No worries.
So how are you doing? Amir actually is a somewhat of a linguistics, ancient biblical languages expert here, and he was on
More like an
Vocab's show.
enthusiast, not an expert.
Very cool.
Yeah,
You were the one that was talking to Vocab the other day. Yeah, yeah. I saw
Yeah, on Friday.
a little bit of that one. Yeah.
yeah.
This is there's a lot of live streams circling around this little
Corner of the internet.
pants. Yeah, well, just
Well, this service.
specifically this thing that's happening here. So
Well, I mean, like I was saying to Amir, there were over 500 people watching Zion Lex's thing, live stream, and there like over 20,000 people have viewed his supposed responses to me, where he doesn't actually respond to me at all.
wow.
Uh, yeah, that's and that's more the that like he gets more views in just every single video than any of my videos, and maybe even my entire channel combined, even though I mean he's giving me a lot of views. So yeah. Where was so this one, so he came on at my show, and he said, you really are slow, and it's like if it would have been a lot smarter if he had not actually shown up on my channel at all. And he keeps on mentioning my name, and it's like I've been gaining viewers in certainly record numbers, so I can't complain.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I was saying to Amir before he left, like he's oh, there he's back.
Sorry, I was meant to hit the mute button, hit the wrong one.
It's quite all right. So Luke also said he might show up. I asked several people because watching your video, Michael,
Yeah.
I I got the impression, and also speaking to Chris, that it's not really clear why I'm bothering. A lot of people think Zion Lex must be just this tiny little channel with no followership, and it's he doesn't show how many subscribers he has, but I can't imagine it's less than 20,000, because 20,000 watch every video he puts out.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say it's definitely not a small YouTube channel. I just think that in the whole, it just seems like it's a small, it's not Roman Catholicism, it's not Orthodox Judaism. It's
Well,
small.
hold on. I could easily believe there are more Hebrew Israelites than religious Orthodox Jews.
Okay.
That's quite possible. There's this is not small.
But it also, so it seems like it is it's not within that movement. There's like some of them are Christian and some of them don't accept Christ, and there's a lot more variety too, right?
Right. Yeah. So I was looking at some. It's really hard to pin them down. Like, well, I would say like most Protestants. It's
Yeah.
But a lot of them are not. Um, a lot of them are not Trinitarian. So that's something. A lot of them actually. So Grim su- submitted this question, and it was like, how does LARPing as Jews benefit the people doing it, and who else benefits? And I think that's a pretty good question there. Like, what benefit are people getting out of being, and like, so maybe one part of it is just having an identity. But I've said this to several people, I really fault Christianity in general, like the idea that 11 a.m. Sunday morning is the most segregated hour in this nation is still true.
I'd lay it more particularly on American Christianity specifically.
Okay,
Yeah.
call it American Christianity, but like the fact that our churches are, well, not my churches, your churches are so segregated, that's
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never gone to a church that was all white people.
mhm.
You know, and I would say for the most part, the churches that I've gone to have been a fairly representative demographic mix of the city that I was in. And in some ways, like, well, when I was in Massachusetts, there was like two black families, and it was a church of like 300 to 400. So it was actually probably like more percentage than what was reflected in the town that we were in.
Okay.
You know, it was really interesting. I watched a talk a while ago. It was I think it was on Sean McDowell's channel. He was talking with Bodie Bacham. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, I really like him. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've listened to him.
he, and it's really interesting because he said that in his experience, the white churches were very open to the idea of trying to, racial reconciliation, but it's the black churches that do not want to, take the next step in that direction. And so, he's kind of tried to call some of them out on that, they're really, kind of dealing with a straw man version of white people in their minds, and like I said, like, well, I mean, I think it's not to say like there's not yes, there's racism is real and stuff, but like I think most of the people in my generation, it's like we learned about Martin Luther King Jr. in school, and we realized like, wow, that was really bad that they segregated people based on their skin color. And like I said, I grew up in the North where there wasn't a lot of black people, but for the most part, now they'd say it's white guilt or whatever. But I think white people would be the idea of white people actually like looking down on black people. That's absurd. It would probably be. It would,
no. So this is the thing. I think the liberals.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead, Amir.
Yeah, it's more complicated in that. Like,
well, I'm not saying it's not more complicated, but I'm saying that was a step in the right direction. Like, when all the kids that learned about the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr. in school were in a better place than like the way that they're teaching it now. Like the way that they're teaching it to kids now, I feel like is causing more
racism. Yeah.
Difficulty to
that. Yeah, I'm not gonna agree with that.
okay.
For like what's typically taught about Martin Luther King is the civil rights movement in general. Now more in depth into like his other stuff, like his push, like his calls for, we've acquired our political rights, but it does not stop there. You got to keep the thing going, make sure this stays steady, and it's after the fact. That's
you at some point you have to actually put race aside, and we're not even trying to do that.
Yeah, that is what we all want. That's not the issue. The issue is,
I don't think that's there are definitely people who do not want to put race aside. Al Sharpton, perfect example. He would be very, very unhappy if racism were to go away in the United States.
I can't really speak for Sharpton, so I'm not going to touch on that. But The issue is the foundations of this country, like with the colonial period, and of course the long history with slavery and segregation, etc. And
But
what
you can't live in history. This is
what
part of the
what
problem.
that well it we're not live it's not living history. It's the issue. It's the realities of what happened in that history, and how does that reflect today.
But
But
that's the problem, Amir. That I cannot be held responsible for what happened in history. I'm
and
not
yeah,
responsible for what happened in history. I
yeah,
can only be held responsible for what I have done.
yeah, that's what, yeah, and I agree with that. This generation is not accountable for what their great grandfather, how
So
racist he
so
was.
when
They're not
people
accountable for
talk
that.
about so when people talk about reparations, like that's just wrong. And the fact that anybody in our society will actually mention the idea of making reparations to people who, for slavery, it's like, I'm sorry, it's hundreds of years ago. The world doesn't work like that.
I think also too, like, to look at the history of our, like, we always think of our country, like the history of our nation, but like the states aspects of it and the difference between like the northern states and the southern states, and really there is distinct differences between every individual state. It's more, we've been more unified as a nation since after the Civil War, but like prior to that, it would almost be like, if you said like the Nazis, did all this horrible stuff in World War II, and Germany's part of the European Union. Therefore, the European Union has to repay uh,
Well, I
for
think
the
it's a
Nazis.
problem even right
Whereas, like,
now. But
France is part of the European Union, and they were the ones they got taken over by the Nazis.
that's
Hey guys,
even beyond that.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really gotta go.
Good
But it
night.
was good talking, y'all. للطف اللي بالي تخمى بكرة إن شاء الله.
Inshallah. I'll talk to you
عشان
later.
يلا باي.
Um, well, I think there is a problem, like even Germany, right?
Yeah.
Anthony said we missed the opportunity for reparations during Reconstruction. There was the Freedmen's Bureau, and it was pretty crappy. Honestly, I mean, John McWhorter and Glenn Lowry speak about this stuff just so intelligently. Coleman Hughes as well. That, but the problem is our intellectuals are idiots. Our intellectuals are idiots, and the people who are talking heads all over the cable channels and all that, they're, I mean, they're we why we're listening to people who are as dumb as these people is just beyond me. But we are. And I think that's part of the reason why so many people are turning to podcasts and YouTube and stuff, because there's no sense making with idiots. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody tonight about, just how I think that obviously there's been attempts to curtail what information gets released on the internet, but you really can't, you know, the problem is that there's absolutely fantastic information that's being put out. Then there's absolute propaganda, and then there's also a whole bunch of nonsense in between, or just you know, you,
I think it's worse than that. I think we have saboteurs who are deliberately
yeah, that's true.
sabotaging the conversation.
Yeah, and I think it was this guy was I haven't done any reading about the thing that happened in Buffalo, but he was asking me, this guy was asking me, like, was this guy like some kind of a like puppet or something like that? And I said, I don't know, but I'm sure that whatever websites he's going to, there probably are people that work for the government that are like riling people up on message boards and stuff. You know, we already know that because like those people that tried to kidnap the governor of
Right.
Michigan, and like all and the people in the group that were pushing for it were the undercover agents. So
Right. And obviously Ray Epps, and there is a lot going on here, and we're not making sense. We are not making sense. And I mean, the Hebrew Israelite thing is part of a bigger problem of our society is just not making sense. So what do we do about it, Michael? Fix it.
well, I mean, that's why I say, you know, uh, you, we got to find the common thing, because if they're reading the Torah or the whole, you know, Hebrew scriptures, there's lots of stuff in there that is that should inform them that the way that they behave is not the way that they should be behaving. So
This is true.
that's, you know, and that's the, you know, so rather than saying like, oh well, let's not argue about this one verse, what is it in Deuteronomy or whatever, like the one about
Yeah.
you know, like instead of we're arguing about that, let's look at like, here's the 10 Commandments. Are you doing this like properly? You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's like if your neighbor gets a new blinged out Torah, are you coveting it? Like,
that's a good question. Really? Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I have to say, I think part of it is, especially with some of like the more violent ones, they believe what I would call slander of Christians of the Old Testament.
mm,
And they say, aha, that's what we're going to be like. We are actually, so the idea that like, oh, if you're not a Jew, you're going to hell or whatever, right? And they believe this. So they believe that is what Judaism taught before Christianity, and they're like, yeah, let's go back to that. It's like, no. First of all, that's not what it's ever said. And yeah, it's very frustrating. And some people like, okay, there's the question of the bigger environment, and then our little corner of the internet. And obviously nobody in our little corner of the internet is going to be like taking Zion Lexx's Hebrew class, right?
mm.
But there are more people who listen to Zion Lexx than listen to PVK. I think there are more people than even listen to Jonathan Pajot, right? And what does that say about our ability to actually affect the larger environment that we live in?
Well, you know, it's, I think, like personally, I have tried, like I've noticed at times that I can get into a cycle of like making just videos that are like responses to what came out, and like this kind of like you know, you're trying to like catch the like current like wave of popularity. But I think, and that's very tempting, but I think that you know, really, of the various people in our little corner, there are some big questions that people are struggling with and wrestling with, and trying to find like real answers. You know, like I the talk that PVK had this morning. Did you get to listen to that one?
I haven't been able to catch up on any
Okay.
of my stuff because I've been doing so much of this stuff.
Yeah, it was I told him in the comment, like, this was the best conversation that I've heard of, like, somebody who's Eastern Orthodox and a Protestant. Because,
Literally.
yeah, because this guy, he's the first Eastern Orthodox person I've heard who seems to understand that God is also doing things in the churches that aren't Eastern Orthodox. Which, I mean, just because, like, there's so much of the, like, the ortho bros that get very, like,
Become orthodox.
yeah, and just, this is the continuous church that's gone on from the beginning of Christianity, and it's the most authentic, and blah, blah blah blah, and, like, it's very it's very like, it's very unappealing. That attitude makes it very unappealing. But there's actually probably a lot of good stuff that's in there. And so, like for instance, yeah, just like, I have really enjoyed learning about more different versions of Christianity, and in my point of view, I, which it's almost even to say the thing with the, like, that 11 a.m. is the most segregated hour in America. There is yeah, there, that's, like, not good in some ways, but I think that also is a good thing, because on, yeah, 11 a.m. on Sunday, everybody's in their own community, and they're getting their stuff, that is suited to their culture, and there's a lot of churches that maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable, or I wouldn't enjoy as much, um, and you know, but also, like, the community where I grew up in, there was no mega churches because it's New England. Real estate is expensive, so there's just these old churches that, it may not be like the if you start a new church, you're probably going to buy an old church building to start a new church in. So there's lots of small congregations. So whenever we wanted to do something that was, like, for the town, or, like, some kind of an outreach, there was always, like, oh, let's get together with the other churches in our town. And there was, like, there was you felt that you as a Christian were part of a bigger community than just your local church. Um, but in like, when I was in the Midwest, I did an internship at a mega church. It was like 5,000 people, and directly across the intersection on the other corner was another mega church with 5,000 people, and nobody from one church ever met anyone from the other church, and they just had all their own programs, and that wasn't great. So, but I think through the internet, we're kind of building that little town square thing. Oh, I think it's to get a phone call, so I'll
Okay.
come back in a minute.
Okay. I am going to go ahead and play some of the things I was planning on playing. So this is Zion Lexx shit talking about me. And he calls me European because honestly, I have no idea. So Mitt's Rocky, and I talked to Amir about this. It's like, but look at the racism. Listen to his racism. Genetic look. It's all about how you look. He is a racist. And to be called a racist by a racist, it's like it's all about how you look. And by the way, I guarantee, because I'm a little darker, that if he were to see me on the street, this isn't the type of shit he would say. But and it's just pure racism. And that's why I don't mind. You want to call me a Khazar, go ahead and call me a Khazar. Like, and you talk about Khazars, as if Jews have no idea, read the Kuzari, right? And so here, the word Ivri comes from Ayin Bet Resh, to cross over, right? Like in Genesis 12:6, it says, Avraham vayavor Avraham. He crossed over, right? He passed through. And the word Ivri, I messed up my whole thing because of we were having a discussion. Where's Ivri? We were talking Ivri, right? Perhaps from Ever, which also is from across, right? But an Ivri is somebody who crosses over. And to be a Hebrew, yes, you can convert to Judaism. And not only that, we've never believed that only Jews are God's, are beloved of God, like the verses that I showed at the very beginning. So this whole racist way of looking at things, like read the book of Jonah. Is that Judaism telling you that we believe God only cares about Jews? Is that the message you get from the book of Jonah? So it's like, hello, yeah. So the first time Avram gets called Ha'ivri, it's even before his name gets changed, but Abraham is called Ivri, meaning that it's not just a genetic thing that if you are the child of Abraham, you are in fact an Israelite, right? Because there is Ishmael and there is Edom. So Abraham is called an Ivri, right? So if it's purely genetic, first of all, he had more than 2 kids. Look at all the kids he had with Keturah. This stuff is just so obviously wrong. No, thank you. Why did I? Oh, this was because of Genesis Rabbah. So listen to his racism. One good look, it's all racism. And automatically no. Ashkenazi Jew. Khazar Gematria. And again, it was all incorrect, which he later recognizes. But listen to him reading. Did he read this already? So listen to him trying to read Hebrew.
Are you going to play a clip?
Okay. Hey, Michael. Yeah, he doesn't even know Hebrew. What do I do with that? Like, people think that we're just having like several people have said you are having a disagreement about interpretation, and it's like, no, I will gladly have a disagreement with people over interpretation, but he doesn't even know basic Hebrew. So what do you do with that?
Yeah. I have seen, that's I mean, that's one like thing I've noticed I've noticed it more with people learning Greek, just for whatever reason, but like when you are like, and this is why I'm not like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna whatever I'm gonna really do, I'm gonna try to do in English because at least I actually understand English because I see people, you know, start learning some of the rules of like Greek or Hebrew, and then reading something and then applying some of these basic rules and not understanding the conditions where those basic rules may be different or altered, and then you come up with all sorts of whack stuff. Like, I mean, I would just say, like, because it seems like if you looked at a bunch of English translations and then you're starting to learn the original language, and when you start learning it, somehow you come up with something that's totally different from all of the English translations. It's probably a good indication that you're translating it wrong.
Well, part of the problem with the translation is, okay, somebody asked me to translate something and I translate it for them, and then they read something out of it which I did not mean, right? So do if you believe that that's the Holy Spirit teaching you something, that I'm like, I don't know what to say about that, because I'm trying my best to give you a particular understanding through translating it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of the reason I think you can't do exegesis in it's fine to read multiple translations and try to understand it, but you can't come up with something new, like you and then go around teaching it. And honestly, I think that's the reason why Christianity has to defend that practice, is because that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, and I think too. Like, I mean, if somebody's asking you to translate something, are they asking you to translate a whole book of the Bible?
Well, I mean,
I mean, I know that's
nobody's ever asked me that,
yeah.
but look, Spencer Clavin made a new translation of Isaiah, and people are constantly making new translations of the Bible, which,
Yeah,
again,
but
I wonder why more Christians aren't teaching their kids Hebrew, or at least Greek.
yeah. Well, I think I might start my that that the other channel you pointed out.
Oh, Aleph with
With
Beth.
yeah, I'm gonna look into that. See, teaching my kids that because they're young enough to soak up new languages real easy. So
Hey,
and they
if
are
you want, I will tutor your kids in Hebrew for free.
okay. I mean, yeah, they are Jewish, so you know they should learn their heritage. So
I completely agree.
yeah. Um,
They are actually halakhic. So your kids are actually halachically Jewish. So, in case anybody was wondering,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, well, yeah, and yeah, I see another time because my wife she actually went on like the birthright trip or whatever.
Okay.
She didn't tell them that she was a Christian because apparently they don't. Whoever
So
organizes those groups or whatever doesn't. Yeah,
look, Christians coming on birthright trips, usually if they say they're a Christian, in fact, they will ask you if you are a Christian to try to keep the missionaries out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, she wasn't gonna try to be a missionary, but she just somebody had told her like just don't
yeah,
bring
don't bring it
yeah.
up. Yeah.
Um. So, but yeah, but she wasn't sure like yeah. I mean, if that like cause I'm trying to because her grandmother was
Her mother's mother
yes, her
was
mother's mother was Jewish.
as long
Yeah.
the children of a Jewish mother are considered halachically Jewish.
Okay.
So yeah,
You just
if
have to figure out have somebody verify that or whatever, right? So,
right. So I mean, if she can show she is descended from her and she's buried in a Jewish cemetery, or if there is a marriage document by an Orthodox rabbi, either one of those will work.
Well, yeah, I don't know what she had to do to prove her.
For birthright, nothing.
Yeah, oh, nothing.
If you claim you're Jewish, I know many people who aren't Jewish at all, and they just claimed it, and nobody's going to stop you.
Yeah, because I think she wasn't sure if our kids would be able to do that or not. But well, who knows what they'll be doing, in like 15 years from now or whatever.
Birthright will still be going in 15 years.
Okay. Yeah. But,
oh, how was your Seder?
It was good. So my kids were sick, so we ended up doing it twice. I did it with my parents and my brother and his family, and then we just did it a little one with my wife and our kids, which, they were crazy, and so we did a very abbreviated version of all the stuff. But
so there's a bunch of stuff in there that's supposed to be in order to keep the kids interested, like the songs and stuff like that. Yeah. So
but they're really young.
They're too young for that. Yeah. Under 6, honestly, it's kind of like,
But I mean, you can just do it as like, this is a thing we'll do every year, so then they'll remember, and then I just add more to it every time or whatever. So
yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. So anyway, so what was he saying about Gematria?
Oh, okay. So he had this thing. So do you know what Khazars are?
No.
Have you ever heard of Khazaria?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Khazaria was this actually rather large country that was on the border between the Christian countries and the Muslim countries around like the year 900, 1000.
Okay.
And the rulers of Khazaria apparently converted to Judaism. And so there's this book called the Kuzari, which is actually it's considered a classic of Jewish theology, which is set as this king asks a rabbi and an imam and a priest to come and try to convince him which religion is correct. And at the end, he ends up converting to Judaism. And I mean, there is historical truth here because there was a Jewish kingdom of Khazaria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, normal historians believe that it was just the rulers who converted because they wanted some sort of buffer between, like, they didn't want to take sides between the Christians and Muslims, and figured like if we're Jewish, we can kind of like be neutral.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a lot of people who have this idea that the reason why Jews are white today is because we're all Khazars and the original Jews were all black or all something else. Like, have you heard of the British Israelites?
Yeah, it was that video I sent you that
Oh, right. You sent it. Yeah, you sent me that one. So there's all kinds of people who claim to be the real Jews and were the fake Jews, and it's partially out of Revelation, right? That says those who claim to be Jewish. So,
you know what's really interesting though, is so there's a guy, he actually works for Answers in Genesis, and he's a geneticist. He's a PhD. He got his PhD from Harvard, and he wrote this book. He wrote one book about like Darwinism and why it's not that great. But then he came out with this new book called Traced, and it's all about the Y chromosome data.
Right.
because it goes all the way back or whatever. And basically, he's, you know, there's people that say he's not interpreting it right, but he's basically figured out that he can trace things back to three sons of Noah, which covers everybody.
Mhm.
And but the interesting thing is that the Shem line is like by far the biggest, like geographically, and it seems like you like technically, like if you were basing things off of like the table of nations in like Genesis 10, like Japheth would be the father of a lot of the European nations, but in reality a lot of European people come from the Semitic line,
Hmm.
at least at that level. So um, you know and which kind of makes sense because the Israelites just kept getting spread out throughout the rest of the world in lots of different ways.
Well, that's actually one thing that like a lot of DNA testing has shown
Yeah.
is that Jews were actually passing into the surrounding population, and we were taking in converts. And it's like, yes, we take in converts. That's why, like, my whole thing was, you want to call me a Khazar, call me a Khazar. It doesn't matter, like, if my great grandparents converted. That's it's not racial. Judaism actually is not racial,
Yeah.
unlike how what these people think. And so um was trying to do this whole gematria with with uh showing, like, he I don't even know what he was trying to show, like with Gog and Magog and that whole thing. But his claim was that Kuzari is the same gematria as El Gog, right? Which is like, I'm listening to him say this, and I'm like, how are you doing this? Kuzari has a resh in it. However you spell it, because you can spell things in a lot of different ways.
Mhm.
Obviously, if they're not from the Bible, and Kuzari is not from the Bible, right? So, but however you're spelling it, you need a resh there, right? So Kuzari and resh is 200, and El Gog is like, well, he does this whole thing.
Is
Where
this is that error that he caught himself
he
on?
caught himself. Now watch him catch himself, because this is where he's. So let me back up a little bit. Watch this.
Oh, I don't. Oh, I don't know. I'm not watching on YouTube, so I don't think I can
Uh,
see your screen or whatever.
I should be showing you my screen. Thank you for telling me that I was not showing you my screen. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, you should be able to hear this. So he's looking. Well, let me go back a little bit, because
I'm not hearing the sound.
yeah, he hasn't said
Oh, okay.
yeah. Okay, so he's showing people how it's thing.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
And this is where, as he's noticing, like he's looking at it. He was doing this live, right? And you'll notice, like, he's like trying to figure. So he decides to go to something else,
Mm,
right? And then he goes, right. He tries skipping, and he goes to something else, and then um he goes to break, right? And then he comes back from break. Oops, this is a thing. This is still his ads,
Have
right?
you thought about putting an ad on his channel for your insurance business?
No, I have not. And then he comes back, And
Yeah, I can't hear the sound, but
oh,
no, it's
you
not.
can't hear it at all?
Uh-uh.
Okay. So what he says is yeah, it's kind of low. He says because this is live, I have to I have to make any corrections because people are watching. Guess who's watching? Right? He's obviously thinking about me, and he says like I've sent this clip. I have it clipped out.
Yeah,
I'll
I
send it to
saw
you.
I saw you play it
You
in one
saw
of
the clip,
the live streams. So.
yeah. Like so, it's he obviously has he dude, just give up. Just admit. And I really think the reason why he's not I think the reason why he can't admit it, because I really get the feeling like through this he's actually come to some understanding and some belief in God, and he's trying to, but he can't admit that all this time he's been lying about knowing Hebrew and stuff. And because people will get mad at him and
Yeah.
people will demand so he's stuck. And honestly, it's like gold chains. This money that he's taken for yeah, so I don't know what to say. Arguing with Porch again. Why? I have no idea who Porch is. Um, so why are the Ethiopian and Igbo Jews treated bad in Israel? Because human beings are human beings. Um, I have I have myself as a Mizrahi Jew um, been called the worst slur you can think of. It like there human beings are human beings, and just because you're Jewish doesn't mean that you aren't there that it this is the thing, like Christians have this idea that a lot of Christians have this idea that either we believe that just because somebody is Jewish they're perfect, or um that the, um that means whatever they do or believe is right. And it's like, no. um and so is there racism among Jews? Yes, there's definitely racism among Jews. Why you would expect Jewish society to be completely free of any sin is beyond me. um so yeah, there's definitely, and the relationship between Sephardi and Ashkenazi Jews, there are real problems there, especially because, see, this is the thing. It's like, and every Jew on YouTube gets this. Like, um, all the Jewish channels, and because for these people, like racism is the most important thing. Like this mukmuk, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like it's all about race. It's all about race. So what? Let's say I was a Khazarian. So, but they have this idea of like the seed of Cain or whatever, or children, and it's like, no, salvation. Like God created all the people, and all the people are descended of Adam. And if you have this racial view of God's relationship with people, like, you're just a racist. And then for these racists to then call me racist, it's like, but you are a racist. You actually believe race is important in terms of salvation and things like that. So I really I don't know what to do with these people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's you know, well, it's like the thing I said in my video. You know, these are people that they really were robbed of their identity, and so then it's like, um, you know, Civil War is over, all the slaves are freed, and then it's like now go to church with the people that owned you a month ago. Like, that's not going to be an appealing like thing necessarily. And and obviously like Martin Luther King, uh, he was a preacher in a black church, and by the time of the civil rights movements, there were black churches, and I think that I can see why it's like a naturally segregating thing, because it's like you don't want, if you're a believer and you're going to church to be fed and to be refreshed, you don't want it to be a stressful environment. So you just want to be with the people that are
Well, part of
close
the
to
problem,
your
honestly,
culture.
is that there isn't. Look, the intermarriage, like, but lol, the Bible is racist, you buffoon, right? It's and people part of it is Marcionism, because there's a lot of Christians who really believe that the Old Testament is racist, and that is kind of what Paul is in fact teaching about the Old Testament. Like this idea of, so my question, when you tell me that the Gentiles were adopted into the house of Israel, is who was their father before they were adopted? Or you talk about the natural branches and the grafted in branches, like what tree did they belong to before, right? That wasn't part of, and it really, it's I think it's Paul coming from a Greek point of view and not a Jewish point of view, not a monotheistic point of view, where in Judaism, like, and I had the verses up before, right? My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations, and Zephaniah 3:9, and it's Ezekiel, right, that says that the 10 people from every nation and of every language will, and
I think
there's
that one's Zechariah. Zechariah, isn't that one?
Zachariah, right?
Yeah,
You're right, it's
just
Zachariah.
read that one the other day. Oh yeah,
um
I figured that one out. I figured that one out.
You figured that one
Yeah,
out?
yeah, that's after the rapture, because all the Christians are gone, and then that's why
And then
everybody.
there's only Jews
Yeah, yeah,
left for
that's
everybody. I see. I see. I see. um, Protestants are not racist towards Jewish people. I have to say, philo-Semitism is still a form of racism. When you fetishize, and honestly, it's like, I realize that it's an affection and stuff, but there are a lot of Protestants who like worship, don't worship Jews, but almost worship Jews. You know what I mean?
yeah. There's way too many shofars in the Pentecostal churches.
Yes, shofars, and like everybody wants to claim to be Jewish, and it's like, and they treat Jews like, I remember when I dressed like a Hasidic Jew. Sometimes you would meet these Protestants who had never seen a Jew before, especially when I was traveling, and they had never seen a religious Jew before, and like they it was almost like a Catholic with a bishop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what, and I think that that's probably because, and this is something I think is changing now. Like, because because like Protestants I think are becoming more aware of the history between the Book of Acts and the Reformation, which basically they didn't want to talk about because they had, more of an agenda. But, I think Protestantism has won in a sense that I don't think we're not all going to come back under the Catholic tent or whatever. Like,
I think you will.
no,
So John
not
4:22.
me. So
Ye worship ye not what we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. That's Yahweh Shai. That's how they say Jesus. And the New Testament, homie. It may be. I'm not a follower of Yahweh Shai. And honestly, while I do believe salvation is of the Jews, that doesn't mean salvation is for the Jews. In fact, the Bible does say that Israel, Beni Bechori Israel, right? My firstborn is Israel. And that means that there are other children which we have a responsibility for, and that we are supposed to be a light unto the nations. But that shows quite clearly that you do not have to be Jewish, and this is why we don't evangelize. It's not that we believe other people of other nations cannot be saved. It's because, well, saved. It's because we believe that God has a relationship with all of his creation. There's only one God. There's only one creator. And if he created you, then he will take care of that, right? And in fact, like Maimonides says, the way he has taken care of that is through Christianity and Islam, which will spread Jewish ideas all over the world until the Messiah comes and you guys realize you were wrong all the time. Protestants control the political system in the USA, and we have always come to the aid of the Jewish people throughout history. So I am not a Zionist. I'll just put it that way. I think there's definitely problems there.
do you think there's no spiritual aspect to the restoration of a Jewish state in Israel? Like,
I think there's a spiritual aspect to everything.
mm-hmm.
And I think that God, like, yeah, it's pretty amazing that my uncle, who lived literally on the rivers of Babylon, right, moved and now lives in Jerusalem. And like Chazi, have you met Chazi?
No, I've seen the live streams you've done with him, but I don't. Yeah.
I did one. Yeah, I did one live stream. He was on PVK. He comes on BOM every once in a while. So he's a religious Zionist, as is Yosef. God forgive both of them. But so Chezi says, the fact that my children with and my grandfather, like my grandfather is sitting there watching his kids play in Jerusalem. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I do have to say that is pretty amazing. The fact that now, Hebrew is again a language that's being spoken, and that there are so many Jews living in Israel and the desert is blooming and all that stuff is pretty amazing. But I don't believe that is actually fulfillment of the prophecies, because I do believe that that we as Jews have a responsibility to the entire world, and it's not, and the state of Israel is not. That's like, we were exiled for a reason, and the process of messianic redemption has obviously not begun. I wish it would, and lots of Jews would like to think that it has, but that's that has to be a redemption of the entire world. It can't just be, and it's not like, I don't know if you've ever been to Israel, but it's quite obvious that Israel is not some perfect. It is not Olam Haba. It is not God's kingdom on earth. Let's put it that way. And if the gay pride parades in Jerusalem don't tell you that, I don't know what.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, Christians believe that there's lots of prophecies that are partially but not ultimately fulfilled at this point in history, so it doesn't bother me that much. I just know, like, looking at the way, like, the War of Independence and like the 6 Day War, like, played out, like, is pretty miraculous. Although that 6 Day War, they were still fighting on the Sabbath, and then there was no rest until Sunday. So
we so, like Jesus said, Sabbath was made for man, and man was not made for Sabbath. And you guys mistranslated it to Sabbath was made for the Son of Man, which is incorrect.
I think most translations say for man.
Now they do.
Yeah.
Now they do. I don't think that the King James did. But like, Jesus claiming to be the master of the Sabbath, like, that's, yeah, I mean, I've gone over this stuff a lot. Luke said he was going to come when his kids went to bed. I'm sure his kids are to bed, and I mean, if people have questions and stuff, I am going to put a lid on this in 22 minutes max, because I do have to go to sleep, and I've been live streaming so much about this stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, I got to go to bed. So
yeah,
I'll just leave now.
okay, you can.
Yeah, it
I'll
was
talk.
good talking with you.
You're always welcome. I will talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
Dr. Hana, well, there's a lot of people who participated in the 6 Day War. Second Ezra's 656. Whose Bible is that? Like, you're quoting a Bible I don't recognize. Is Second Ezra's like in Nehemiah and Ezra? Like, I don't know the apocrypha and that stuff very well. As for the other people, which also came of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing but be like unto spittle. I dare you to find that. It's from the apocrypha. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, so, like, there's a reason why it's not part of our Bible. And even if that were true, what do you do with all the stuff that is in the Bible? Like, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the peoples, or Zephaniah 3:9. Like, what do you do with the idea that the Bible is racist? It's a Christian slander. That's all it is. Sure thing. Third temple being built in Israel. Is that true? No. The third temple will be a temple not built by hands. This is a tradition that we have had as Jews for many years. And I was quite surprised to find it in the Christian Bible as well. But the third temple, even during the existence of the second temple, it was known by Jews that the second temple did not have the glory of the first temple, and that it was not the temple that Ezekiel, I believe it is, saw. And so the third temple will be built not by hands. God will, in fact, miraculously make that happen after the Messiah comes, and the Messiah has not come. So yeah. Let's watch Zion being silly. Let me put that up. There we are. He had to make a correction because somebody was watching. Who was watching? So why did you miss that the whole time? That is actually incorrect. And then he uses his soundboard. Like, okay. Yeah, yeah. He definitely is racially bigoted. Yeah, and so it's like, I'm glad you have to be careful. I wonder what you were doing before I was watching. Good thing you corrected yourself, because when I was watching, I was like, oh my god, like, I am going to destroy him. The Bible is about our people from beginning to end, and you have no relation to it, Khazar. This is so wrong in so many ways. I mean, you have to be an idiot to believe this. Like, how do you read the Bible where it talks about Ruth the Moabite, or becoming like the ancestor of David, or you read about um, Moses marrying the Cushite woman, right? The Ethiopian woman, and Miriam and Aaron talking about her, and God like smacking Miriam down, right? How somebody can be dumb enough to actually believe that the Bible is racist is amazing to me. Like, have you read any of it? Like, read the entire book of Jonah, right? The entire book of Jonah is about how God cares about Gentiles. Let's actually look at Jonah. Let's I mean, read the last chapter of Jonah. It's so short. How could you not have read Jonah? Where's Jonah? Jonah 4, right? So I'll read it in the English. Here, I will read it in the King James. Let me get the King James translation of Jonah. Jonah, King James version. Um, okay. Chapter 4. And we can end out. Well, I mean, if people are thinking, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was very angry. And he prayed unto the Lord and said, I pray thee, O Lord, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country, Israel, right? So he says he is a Jew, right? And he's talking to God, and he's saying, "Therefore I fled before unto Tarshish, for I knew that thou art a gracious God and merciful and slow to anger and of great kindness, and repentest thee of the evil. Therefore now, O Lord, take, I beseech thee, my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live." Then said the Lord, "Doest thou well to be angry?" So Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city, and there made him a booth, and sat under it in the shadow, till he might see what would become of the city. And the Lord God prepared a gourd and made it to come up over Jonah, that it might be a shadow over his head, to deliver him from his grief. So Jonah was exceedingly glad of the gourd. But God prepared a worm when the morning rose the next day, and it smote the gourd that it withered. And it came to pass when the sun did arise that God prepared a vehement east wind, and the sun beat upon the head of Jonah, that he fainted and wished in himself to die, and said, "It is better for me to die than to live." And God said to Jonah, "Doest thou well to be angry for the gourd?" And he said, I do well to be angry even unto death." Then said the Lord, "Thou hast had pity on the gourd, for which thou hast not labored, neither madest it grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night. And should not I spare Nineveh, that great city, wherein are more than 60,000 persons that cannot discern between their right hand and their left hand, and also much cattle?" So, how can you be so stupid as to believe that the Bible, which has Jonah in it, is only for Israel? Like, how stupid can you possibly be? How can you be that stupid? Where does it say Ruth or Moses' wife will receive salvation? So imagine that David that 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 they have to say Ruth has no salvation. Ruth has no salvation. Imagine how stupid you have to be to believe that Ruth has no salvation and Moses' wife has no salvation, right? So Numbers 12, is it? Is that where? That's Numbers 12, right? And Miriam and Aaron spake unto Moses against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. For he had married an Ethiopian woman. And I'm using King James Bible because these idiots are King James Version only. How can you be this stupid? Right? So obviously, the Ethiopian woman, right? So they had the exact same problem that these idiots do, right? They're like, "Oh, he married not an Israelite. He married an Ethiopian woman," right? And imagine being this stupid. It's amazing to me that somebody could be that stupid. And then to come and talk shit and like be saying that they believe the Bible. Listen to what happens. And they said, "Hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us?" And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek above all men which were upon the face of the earth. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam, "Come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation." And they came out, and they three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, "Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he parted. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, "Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, and of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Heal her now, O Lord, O God, I beseech thee. And the Lord said unto Moses, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. And afterward the people removed from Hatzerot and pitched in the wilderness of Paran. So imagine being this stupid. Imagine being this stupid to read this and then dare to say that Moses' children born of this woman, right? That she's not saved. She's going to hell. She's just a concubine. She's nothing. Right? And the children of Moses, not to mention how obvious it is that by the fact that it calls her a Cushite, that she is an Ethiopian woman, guess what that means? Obviously, Miriam and Aaron and Moses were not Cushim, were not Ethiopians, were not black. So the stupidity is amazing, absolutely amazing, and he's still speaking. He's still speaking shit, right? So what were we saying? Yeah, Jonah is for every, and it's obviously so. How you can read the book of Jonah, right, and not understand that it is specifically saying that in fact the God of Israel is the only God, right? And it's all over the Bible. So how you could be this stupid, and then I mean it's amazing. I think Lyin Zion sold his soul and doesn't even care about truth. Honestly, I hope he does. I think maybe he does. I think he definitely seems to care, like more than this guy. I mean, listen to him. Listen to him. Does Zion have a church? I have no idea. Matthew 15:24, but he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. First of all, it's as if I'm a Christian. Second, it doesn't say even that. Like, and imagine like being a Christian and believing that like the Christian Bible is only for Jews. Like, how stupid do you have to be? But here he is. Like, somebody this stupid is in my chat. You're cutting yourself, Khazar, because it doesn't say anything about salvation for the Hamite woman. Hamite woman? It's Cushite. First of all. Second of all, the idea that, and so they have this patrilineal descent, which obviously doesn't work because when you look at Ezra, and I believe it's chapter 10, it's in Ezra. It's obvious. Anybody who can read, right? Anybody who can read understands this. But yet he's supposedly claiming, and I'm using their Bible. I'm using the King James Bible, right? Incredibly stupid. Zion being wrong and correcting himself in real time was really hilarious. I do not get how he did not realize it before he went live. Honestly, it's like, yeah, it's like, honestly, it's pretty thing. Cushites are Hamites, nitwit. First of all, it's funny that you're using a Yiddish word. So Yiddish man, obviously we see you're Yiddish. You must be Germanic. You have no salvation. Why are you using Yiddish words? You used Yiddish words. You must be. Second, honestly, I could care less. The idea the Bible is racist is obviously wrong. And like it's amazing that somebody can be as stupid as you are. It really amazes me. So thank you for being here, because people don't believe people are as stupid as you are. They really don't. And there are definitely people as stupid as you are. There definitely are. They definitely exist. I have to wonder what's like on his channel and stuff. Um, I should pin this message. uh, who is this guy? Uh, many people in the cities in the US have no critical thinking skills, and also, yeah, I mean, to quote the Bible and be this dumb, bye. Of course, you have nothing to say. Bye. Um, it's amazing that people are this dumb, but they are. And what can I say? It is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Um, can you explain more about the Jews teaching that the Sabbath is not for Gentiles? I only have 2 minutes, but yes, Lou, I will. Beini ubeinechem, right? So is this showing? Yeah, it's showing. So Beini. Or is it Beini? Here it is. So Exodus 31:13. Va'ata daber el bnei Israel le'emor ach et shabbotai tishmoru ki ot hi beini uvenechem ledorotechem leda'at ki ani havaya mekadishchem. Right? So it says, speak to the Israelite people and say, nevertheless, you must keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout the ages, that you may know that I, Havaya, have consecrated you. Right? And so it is called a sign, right? It says ot, right? And there are some things which are called otiot, right? And this is the dictionary based on the work of Larry Pierce at the Online Bible, right? Signal, right? Sign, signal, distinguishing mark, banner, remembrance, miraculous sign, omen, warning, token, ensign, standard, miracle, proof, right? And back, like the Sikari, like would actually murder Gentiles who did any of the things which were considered specifically for were considered otiot. And so because it is a sign, and this has been true for thousands of years, when as a Gentile is converting to Judaism, they are actually taught to basically keep all of the mitzvot. The one mitzvah that specifically is forbidden for a Gentile to keep is the Sabbath. So what a lot of them will do is either light a match sometime during the Sabbath, or there are various ways of doing it. Lighting a match is a good one to not do that. And so it's and it's been a teaching like forever, that because it is a sign of between God, right? It says Beini ubeinechem, right? Between me and you, that it's something that must not be violated. Um, the Spanish word for assassin derives from Sicario. I've heard it comes from hashish. Um, there are 8 people watching, and I want to leave. 8 people is a lot of people watching live. Um, um, if people have questions, or if people are, so did I answer your question, Lou? Hopefully I did. But I actually think this is the reason why the Christians did not keep the Jewish Sabbath. That's why they switched over to Sundays. And the one other reason, honestly, on the Jewish Sabbath, we don't carry money, and I know Christians are big on passing the thing. My pleasure. Okay, if there are no further questions, I am going to give you guys another few minutes, and then I am going to go home. Sicario is the Spanish word. Assassin does come from hashish, and probably the medieval Islamic assassin cult, which consumed the drug and ritual. Oh, right. But I mean, I've heard asesino in Spanish. So Sicario, I had not heard of, but I believe you that there is a word Sicario. And then yeah, so I guess I'll play thing for a few more minutes. We're gonna scratch this one. This is 31 minutes and 20 seconds in a 48-minute total broadcast. So like he spent 30 2/3 of it wasting your time because he was just wrong. And then I have no idea what like this Shevet Shloshesre, like it doesn't say Shevet Shloshesre anywhere in the Bible. And it's just silliness and stupidity. Oh, I was going to play him reading Hebrew. He doesn't know how to read Hebrew. Gematria is valid for what it is valid for. So, like the Mishnah says in Avot, Gematria. Pirkei Avot 521, right? He was wont to say 5-year-old towards the end. It says no here. Well, was it? Where was Gematria? Alam Ben Bagvad and Tazuallah Ben. No, where was it? Sorry about that. No, okay. That's a different thing. Pirkei Avot. Right. 318. Sorry about that. So Rabbi Eliezer Hizma said, the laws of mixed bird offerings and the key to the calculations of menstruation days, these are the body of the halacha. The calculation of the equinoxes and gematria are the desserts. That's dessert, as in sweet things you eat at the end, of wisdom. So it's the icing on the cake. You can't mistake it for the cake, which is what he does. It's just icing on the cake. So that's my view on gematria. And by the way, for a Christian, I highly recommend reading through Pirkei Avot. It's very good. Also, Maimonides, the laws of the foundations of the Torah is really good, and dessert with two S's, such as honey on the same head. I really don't know if this is somebody I may have to kick off my channel. Bottom side of the chat is right. Yeah. Go find somewhere else to do stuff like this. I did not realize that Kostler actually came up with the Ashkenazi equal. Well, I don't believe he came up with it. I need to get that book, which Zion was flashing. It's I believe it's on archive. It's available online free on archive. It was only like 100 pages. I didn't bother with it, but it's there. Yeah, and it's like the funny thing is that it was supposed to mean he thought that it would in fact make people be less racist against Jews, and obviously that's, but it's like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what race you came from if you are now Jewish. And even if you're not Jewish, like that's, I mean, again, Jonah, like how dumb do you have to be to think that the actual Bible itself is racist? Okay, people, go to bed so I can go to bed. It was nice meeting you. I'm gonna stick around 4 more minutes. Last questions. And then I'm going to go at 9:15 my time. Next live stream will be on Thursday, where we'll go all the various ways in which you can for free learn Hebrew, and don't need to pay a Zion Lexx $300. $300. And he doesn't even know Hebrew. Like, listen to him trying to read. Sim panecha. Vehinave alav. It's like Ben Adam, not Bain Adam. Ben Adam. That's a segol. That's not a tzere. Oh, God damn. Let's go from the beginning. I'm trying to read and failing miserably. The var, not the bar. There's a bet. There's no dagesh in that bet. I mean, honestly, Beget Kefet, it doesn't matter as far as thing. But his tseres, like these are tseres, and he doesn't say tsere. But then when it comes to segol, he's saying a tsere. Hinave, and that's a tsere. It's like two lines, and he can't even read it. No, it's Eretz Hamagog. Except you didn't. And you were wrong. Really interesting. Tzafon, not Zafon, Tzafon. Against, upon, whatever. Ve'vaha aviot. Not against, toward, al. Shalosh esre, whatever. But where'd you get this thing? And it's not the. It's if it was. Well, Shevet Hashlosh esre. Okay, people, it's 9:15. I am going to go. You have a good night.